So thank you very much, Niamh. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for the introduction. So as set out, I head up the Environment section in the Department of Climate, Energy, and most importantly, leave the best to last, the environment. And as stated, part of our remit is the policy and legislation brief for air quality. And today, I'd like to just go through some of the updates over the last year. So we might just start with the programme for government, which is agreed, it seems like a lifetime ago now, but it was only back at the beginning of the year. And the issue of air quality is called out specifically in the programme for government. And I think it aligns well with our theme of clean air, healthier lives today, as it states that the government is committed to continue efforts to raise air quality standards, especially in urban areas, ensuring healthier environments for all. So how are we doing against that? Well, we've had a number of reports in 2025 that set out where we are and where we need to go in terms of our air quality. The first being the annual Clean Air Strategy Update Report to Government, which noted some real progress over the last year, and my colleague Luke Tully will speak to this later in some more detail. The European Environment Agency's Europe's Environment 2025 report was launched in September, and it noted in Ireland's country profile that our air quality is among Europe's best, and it also noted that Ireland currently meets its EU air quality standards requirements. Last but not least, the annual EPA's Air Quality Report in Ireland 2024 noted also that we are meeting all of our EU requirements and that our air quality is generally good. But, and there is a but, we have serious challenges, and they've been mentioned here already this morning. Despite the progress made, and that progress is real, and we should acknowledge it, we still have to face and ultimately address the stark reality that around 1,700 premature deaths occur in Ireland each year because of poor air quality. And I know that we will get the opportunity to discuss the impacts of air pollution on our health over the course of the day in more detail. In terms of upcoming guidelines and targets, it's clear that under the Clean Air Strategy, we're going to really struggle to meet our 2026 IT3 WHO guidelines, our 2030 IT4 guidelines, and obviously, as mentioned already, the 2030 new stricter EU targets that are coming in. In addition, we obviously have pledged to hit full WHO guideline compliance by 2040, and I think we're going to really struggle with that. And it's not a surprise, they've been mentioned already, the two main problem air pollutants continue to be fine particulate matter produced from solid fuel burning and nitrogen dioxide from vehicle emissions. And I think while we're making progress through measures such as investment in public transport, active travel, and retrofitting homes to address those two pollutants, I would like to zone in on one specific legislative measure that is being advanced to address the impact of solid fuel burning. So specifically, one of the key tools to improve air quality has been the solid fuel regulations, which focus on improving the technical standards of solid fuels which are placed in the market. And that's to ensure that they emit lower levels of air pollution. We accept that there is no such thing as a non-polluting solid fuel. The indications are that the 2022 regulations have had some success in reducing the impact of solid fuels on our health and environment. However, a review of the enforcement provisions of the regs and the Air Pollution Act 1987, and that was conducted by the local authorities under the auspices of the EPA NEAT network, it became clear that, notwithstanding the success of the regulations, local authorities required more powers to enforce them effectively. And in response, the Air Pollution Amendment Bill was published in July 2025, and it seeks to strengthen the enforcement toolkit available to local authorities and to provide greater regulatory clarity with regard to enforcement. The bill's provisions include reintroduction of fixed payment notices, also known as on-the-spot fines, for breaches of the solid fuel regulations by commercial producers, retailers or transporters, and that should ensure quick and proportionate enforcement. Compliance notices will require corrective action to be taken within a specified timeframe. Seizure and forfeiture powers, similar to those available under the Waste Management Act, will allow enforcement officers to remove non-compliant fuel from commercial circulation immediately. The bill provides for enhanced solid fuel registers for producers, retailers and transporters, ensuring only compliant operators will legally be able to trade. and there are clearer processes for registration and removal from the register, including an appeals mechanism to improve transparency and accountability. We're just noting as well that the bill has passed second stage in the Seanad. We're obviously going to have to make our way through the Oireachtas, and subject to Oireachtas approval, the bill will become an act. But at that point in time, we have quite a serious job to do in terms of putting together secondary legislation and sets of regulations to flesh out the full effect of the legislation. And while we're talking about legislation, the Department are also advancing regulations to transpose the revised Ambient Air Quality Directive. So in addition to the stricter air quality limits that will apply, there are a number of other changes and measures that are also required to be transposed and implemented. We're hoping to have that legislation in place by Q2 2026. And as already mentioned, it's just an interesting requirement in the AAQD as revised, is the need to prepare air quality roadmaps for a breach of new thresholds that only kick in from 2030 in the lead-up period to 2030, where the roadmap would set out measures and a pathway to compliance. And with that in mind, and in the knowledge that based on our air quality monitoring network, that we are facing down the barrel of ambient air quality roadmaps being required to be prepared for our two problem pollutants in specific areas, the Department made available grant funding of €500,000 this year to support the relevant local authorities, and 5 local authorities have availed of that funding. And we don't anticipate that this round of work will necessarily bring all of the solutions together and our air quality roadmaps, but at least we're beginning to look at the issue and put in place measures to put those roadmaps in place. And I think we probably have an opportunity, just based on Nina's presentation as well, to learn from international experience as to how other member states will be approaching this across the Union. So maybe just to turn our attention away from ambient air quality for a moment and talk about our national emissions to air. I suppose in very general terms, and it's for lay people certainly like me, we are required to reduce our emissions of 5 key pollutants under the National Emissions Reduction Commitment Directive compared to our 2005 emissions. And the 5 key pollutants are listed there on screen, with sulphur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, ammonia, non-methane VOCs, and fine particulate matter. And I just wanted to note that the 2023 data submitted by the EPA earlier this year indicated that we are in compliance with our NECD commitments. However, we do have an open infringement against Ireland as a result of data submitted back in 2020 that indicated we were in breach of our ammonia emissions commitments. And as part of the infringement process, Ireland received a letter of formal notice, which was escalated to a reasoned opinion in 2023. However, again, data submitted by the EPA this year indicates that we have come back into compliance with our ammonia reduction commitments, and this data has been reviewed by the Commission recently, and we now wait to see how the Commission will take that data into account when assessing the case. And just to note that the reduction in ammonia emissions in 23 was driven by a reduction in nitrogen fertiliser use and increased use of low emission slurry spreading. So finally, on the NECD, it's currently under review by the European Commission. It's basically looking to see whether the NEC has been effective in protecting human health and reducing emissions to the environment. So it's looking at different criteria, including its effectiveness, as mentioned, its impact on the reduction of pollutants, efficiency, examining the administration and abatement costs versus the benefits of implementation, coherence, how does the NECD fit in with wider policy context, including on the climate side, and relevance, are the objectives in line with the needs that we currently have, or have these needs changed over time? So the review is expected to be complete by the end of the year, 2025, and we'll be interested to see what emerges from that process in terms of recommendations. So I'm just going to finish up, maybe to go back to where I started, go full circle. I want to stress that improving air quality is a priority for government. It's set out in the programme for government. We are seeking to improve our air quality through the development of legislation and the implementation of our National Clean Air Strategy and other programmes. And we will do this through continuing to cooperate and collaborate with key regulators, departments, agencies, NGOs, academics, institutions, researchers, businesses, schools, communities and citizens. Basically, everybody in the room and many outside. I think we can all see that progress has been made over the last number of years in terms of our air quality, and it's important to acknowledge that. However, we can also see that significant challenges need to be overcome if we are to reduce air pollution and ultimately the number of premature deaths associated with it, as well as meeting our upcoming targets. Continuing to work together gives us our best chance to develop solutions and overcome these challenges. Our Clean Air Strategy provides a high-level framework that we can use to collaborate to achieve our air quality ambitions. However, as our challenges change, so too must our plans. And again, my colleague Luke Tully will speak to this later on today around the updating of the Clean Air Strategy. So I thank you for your attention, and I look forward to the discussions we'll have during the day. Thank you.